Hi, Ange. Firstly, can we start by asking you your thoughts overall on the World Cup and particularly the final on Sunday?
Yeah, we're just talking about it now. It's been the talk around here, and I guess around the world. It was a cracking final. It was it's what football's all about. Scripts you can't write, endings you can't put together that people will believe, and that's the magic of football. And it was a great spectacle. It was a great final, and I guess for the most part, everyone was hoping for the Messi fairy tale ending, so that happened as well. But just a great game of football, and everything we love about the game.
Something else that was very positive about the World Cup, particularly from your point of view, was one of your players, Juranovic. He had a great competition. How confident are you that you can hold on to him in the next window? Because there's a lot of speculation, obviously, surrounding his future.
I don't have any sort of confidence or lack of confidence about any of our players. They're all here and they're all training. Obviously, Josip's not back yet. He had a great World Cup. Absolutely, he was brilliant, and credit to him. And he's got something now, a memory he'll have forever, and represented our football club really well, as did all the boys at the World Cup. And he's got a bit of time off now. He's got a week off, and he'll be back training early next week and ready to go.
Hi Ange, Stephen Welsh has also been linked with a move away from the club this week in the January window. Is there potential for that at all, or is he a player that you're looking to hold on to?
Again, all this speculation. Well, I can tell you right now, we don't have an offer for any player. So, people can talk about offers and clubs wanting, but I can't spend my time chasing shadows of what's in the press every morning, because I'd be spending my whole day talking to players. As I keep saying to people, what I see is what's before me every day here at training. If there's an issue, or if players have things put in front of them about their future, I'm sure they'll come and see me, and Michael will speak to their representatives. But right now, there's nothing, zero, zip, nada, nothing going on.
And in terms of just your squad for this game coming up, is there any injury problems? Anyone back in? Sead Haksabanovic?
Yeah, Sayad's back, so he's good, and everyone got through the weekend all well. So in terms of obviously James McCarthy still out, and Welshie who's probably another couple of weeks away, but and obviously Josip's away, but out of the weekend, Sayad's back, trained the last couple of days, and fit and available.
Hi, Ange. There's been a lot of talk about Aberdeen's tactics at the weekend. Have you noticed over the time you've been here that clubs or teams are maybe sitting back more against you than they were, in the first wee while you were here?
No, not really, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I don't see any issue with. I assume Jim set up his team on the weekend to try and get a result against us, and I think every manager tries to do that. I don't have any real issue with it, or sort of from our perspective how it affects us. I mean, the curious thing I find, and it's more to do with language and anything else, and it's driven, I guess, a little bit by you guys in the media, but also, I hear opposition coaches and opposition players before we play them, and they can't seem to differentiate between us and Rangers at all. It's almost like when you play the top two, this is what happens, and some of them even talk about it as if it's an excursion. You go through Glasgow and this is what you expect, and I don't get that, because if I referred to all the other teams apart from Rangers as the other 10, and that, when we play the other 10, this is what happens, I'm not paying respect to the fact that, Livingston are going to be a different challenge tomorrow to St Johnstone on the weekend. Different, even though they may play defensively, different ways they do that. Playing them home is different to playing them away. So we kind of approach every game as if it's, it's like a jumps race in racing. You respect every hurdle. You don't, just because you're a few lengths in front, you don't sort of look around and not worry about the next one. So that's a bit I find sort of curious, because, as I said, if people are assuming that, if something works or doesn't work against Rangers, that's a reflection of how it's going to be. Well, we're totally different teams. We play differently. We have different types of players. They have different strengths. We have different strengths. We're different home and away. And that's where the discussion should be. But so, to be honest, I think from my perspective, it kind of works in our favour if that's how opposition coaches sort of talk. I don't think they think that way, but when they talk that way, And they also bring a historical context. It just makes the task seem insurmountable because you're going, when you play the top two, this has always happened. I'm going, well, you're not playing the top two. You're playing Rangers or you're playing Celtic and you're playing them home, and maybe they got injuries this week, or maybe they've had a bad week the week before, or maybe they're coming off. So that's the kind of questioning that should be happening to managers. And I think, like I said, I think the managers and some players fall into the trap of just answering those questions because that's the way they're put to them. So that's where I think, I struggle with it a little bit. Not so much the tactics. The tactics, well, we all have our own way of methodology of doing things.
Yeah. Is it something you work on if, say, a team is really sitting back? Can you work on that in training? Because obviously Aberdeen didn't venture forward much on Saturday and kind of crowded the penalty box. Is that something?
Yeah, I mean that's probably a good example because we expected Aberdeen to probably be a bit more aggressive. So we kind of set up, they actually may come out and try and stop us playing. So we kind of prepared for that, but also prepared for the fact that maybe they will sit back. So we, the players were sort of ready for both scenarios. But like I said, Aberdeen sitting back is not the same as Livingston sitting back because they've got different players. They've got different kind of formations. They've got different areas where they're, potentially strong or potentially there's areas to exploit. Like I said, with us, depending on what wingers we play, what central striker we play, what fullbacks we play, what midfielders we play, that changes our game a little bit. You saw that on the weekend. The only reason I made a change with Dyson at half time was that, Dyson's more effective for us when there's space behind, and there wasn't any. I thought there would be. And then, Liel's better when teams are sort of parked in there, so we put Liel in. So, and I know that, I don't want to be disrespectful to other managers. I'm sure they go into that sort of detail as well, but it's just the language they use sometimes bemuses me because it seems they just tend to generalise about what they're going to potentially face against us.
Hi Ange, just on the boys that have been away at the World Cup, what experience that they've earned there can they bring back to the squad, and what message can that send to the younger players who might have similar experiences in the future?
I guess they come back with a little bit more sort of belief and I guess a little bit more motivation because depending on where they are in their careers, they'll want more of it. So they want to take that experience and hopefully that makes them grow as footballers and people. And I guess for the whole group, it shows you that what we do here and the way we're playing and the way we're training transfers well when you're playing against the best. Because if our boys were in great physical condition or playing good football, they'd struggle at that level. So I think it incentivises everyone here to say, well, okay, we keep working hard and we get these opportunities, we'll be able to acquit ourselves well.
And what challenge are you expecting against Livingston tomorrow night?
Yeah, difficult one. Again, David's one that does put a lot of research into what teams they're playing. Although he's another one that tends to talk about the two of us rather than me singularly. It's always a difficult challenge because the thing with Livingston is that that kind of irrespective of who they play against, they have a certain style and they stick to it, and it's difficult to play against, which gives them some sort of certainty going into every game. Because if you kind of chop and change every week, it can put players in that little bit of area of uncertainty if things don't go well. But we've played them a few times now. As I said, it's a different challenge at home to away. Tomorrow it's at Celtic Park, where we can do certain things that are difficult for us to do on their turf. But it'll be a good challenge for us. Obviously, their game got cancelled on the weekend, so they're coming off a pretty long break, and that can work one or two ways. They're going to have a hell of a lot of energy, and we're going to have to expect that early on. Or if they're not quite at it early on, then we can take advantage of it.
Hi, Ange. Four games coming up here in a short space of time. How much emphasis are you placing on this spell, maybe in terms of how pivotal it can be for your team?
Yeah, look, no more or less than any other period. I think what was important for us was that we started off, resumed after the break in a good place, and for that to happen, we had to have a good performance and obviously a positive result, and both of those things happened. So, that hopefully gets us up and running again. And look, for us, we really try and sort of concentrate on what our next challenge is. And, you know, you kind of, from my planning and the coaching staff, we know the congestion of games coming up, and you know, that's where we've got a strong squad where we can utilise players. But the way we kind of address it is make sure that all our focus from the players' perspective is on Livingston and nothing beyond that. And, you know, what happens after that we'll deal with after the game.
And looking back at the World Cup, as a coach, what were the kind of main things you saw on the pitch, maybe different aspects of the game that you're kind of looking at, and you took the whole?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, you know, unless you sort of follow it really closely to look for trends. And, you know, usually they'll come out with a report afterwards and you can kind of look at different things. But, yeah, World Cups are kind of a unique space, and this one even more unique, being sort of mid-season. And I think you saw that. I felt probably the games were at a lower tempo than, you know, usual World Cup games and World Cups. You know, whether that's because, like I said, it was mid-season and you know, where it was played and the conditions, I'm not really sure. But, you know, from my perspective, it was, you know, quite evident that, you know, there was quite a few of the more favoured nations who didn't really deal well with, I think, it being a mid-season World Cup. I just think a lot of countries you'd expect to be really strong really struggled with, you know, probably getting their preparations right, because in the usual World Cup you've got 2 or 3 weeks to get your team up and running, and it looked to me like, you know, quite a few of the favoured countries weren't as prepared as they normally would be for a World Cup.
Hi Ange, we watched James Forrest come on Saturday and made an impact straight away, set up the goal for Callum McGregor. On a podcast this week, it was discussed whether James Forrest would maybe be better or alternatively played as in a sort of number 10 role. Is that something you've ever considered?
No, not really. I like James out wide because he's different to our other wingers, you know, and yeah, that's what we've tried to create. We kind of, you know, with all our front players, is just for them to be a little bit different in what they can bring, and depending on the game, you know, they can make an impact on. And I thought the game, you know, like I said, he came on, and when there is a sort of congestion in the box, you know, he's one that is very good in tight spaces. He's one that's very good in making good decisions. And like I said, I thought not just for the goal he made an impact, but to be fair to him, he makes an impact every time I've either started him or put him on. Obviously, he hasn't had a lot of game time, but, you know, with the wingers we have, you know, a lot of them sort of get rotated a fair bit. So, no, look, I like James in the wide areas. Like I said, he gives us something different from, you know, Abada or Jota or you know, Dazen or Haksabanovic for that matter. So, you know, I like the fact that, you know, when we make these changes, we're not just changing like for like, which asks questions of the opposition, you know, because if they've got into a certain rhythm about sort of how to counteract one of our wingers, we're putting on another winger, but he's a totally different type, and James fits that model.
And again, similarly, we watched Dyson Maida at the World Cup playing sort of through in a sort of central role, and we've seen, especially in the sort of group stage games in the last 16 game, that he really made an impact with his pressing and his you know, sort of eye for goal. Again, the discussion always usually among Celtic fans is sort of Kyogo or Giakoumakis in that central role. Is now, especially after this World Cup, is Dyson Maida in a central role, you know, is that sort of been brought further to your attention going forward in the later part of the season? Yeah,
no, look, he can definitely, I mean, you know, I used him a fair bit that way when I had him at Yokohama, and he's very effective down the middle, and like I said, particularly with his pressing, and for us, it's again, it's a good option to have. Yeah, obviously we've got two very good strikers in Kyogo and Giakoumakis, who, you know, are carrying most of the load there. But again, knock on wood, we've been really strong in terms of, you know, maintaining our players on the field and not having too many injuries. But, you know, having Dazen there who I know can play through the middle, I think Liel can play through the middle at different times. It just means, again, we've got cover if we need to, and there will be times, there may be times even this year that, you know, we'll put Dazen through the middle if we think the game requires it. But he's certainly capable of playing in the central role for sure.